And I was having this conversation with Michael Brooks of the Majority Report last week on Twitter, and we were just laughing. He sent me a video where he was discussing you have these new type of Democrats who will rob a pension fund, but still call themselves a Democrat and a progressive because they support marriage equality. I've got Michael Brooks on the line. Michael, how's it going?
It's going great, man. It's good to be talking with you. You're covering everything.
Yeah, man. I'm covering everything, and I was trying to throw it back to our original conversation. First of all, thanks so much for joining me, man. It's a pleasure. Michael Brooks of the Majority Report. You guys can see him over on Sam Cedars, the Majority Report channel. He's there. You're there every day, right?
Yeah, I'm there every day. I host it on Mondays. And I'm there every day, co-hosting and kind of co-anchoring it. And also, I just got to plug it because I'm excited about it. I have another podcast that's going to be launching really soon, like by either the last month of February or first week of March, called Two Dopeboys and a Podcast. I'm doing it with my friend Phil McKenzie, and that's coming soon as well.
Okay, so it's Two Dope Boys and a Podcast.
That's correct.
Awesome. And your partner's name again is Sean McKenzie?
Phil McKenzie.
Phil McKenzie. I'm horrible with names. Yeah. I will mess up a name every single time. So we should keep our eyes out for that coming up at the end of this month, possibly at the beginning of next month. Awesome, man. So we'll definitely love to have you guys on the show and vice versa. So listen, before we jump into our conversation that we had about the new type of Democrats, just tell everybody a little bit more about yourself. I know you told them about the podcast or anything else. I'm sure they know you, because if they know me, they probably are watching everything on YouTube. But go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself before we get into it.
I'm a Leo. You know, I've been and actually it is true though, by the way, I'm a Leo. I've been working at the Majority Report for a couple of years now, and doing that work with Sam. You could see me on other places like, Al Jazeera, HuffPost Live, written for a bunch of different places, Al Monitor, Al Jazeera, Washington Post. I've done a lot of foreign policy stuff. And then, as far as sort of like getting into this work, I became politically active when I was like a teenager, actually. I went to, and I probably shouldn't say this could jeopardize my political career if I choose to have one, but when I was 15 years old, I went to Philadelphia to march for Mumia Abu-Jamal. And which was, I don't remember me and this other little white dude, little hippie. We were up from Massachusetts, and we were getting guarded by the fruit of Islam while we marched around Philly, which was hilarious.
Wow, you started off radical, man. You started off early. Wow.
To be honest, when I was really young, like 12, 13, 14, I was a pretty bad kid. I was kind of precocious in some ways. I read a lot, but I also was a very consistent and steady rule breaker by any sort of way you could, any rule you provided me with, I needed to break.
Right.
So I think in some ways when that sort of connected with politics, the impulse was, well, it's got to be the most radical thing.
Yeah.
And so that continued, and through all these other iterations and a bunch of other things I've done, that's actually stuck with me in some ways. And before I went to college, I ran an arts nonprofit and event platform with some buddies, and that also is a thread of kind of like empowering community and solving situations from the bottom up. So those are some fragments. Give you a flavor of me. Maybe we'll contextualize some of my Nation of Islam Obama impressions on the Majority Report as well.
Yes, it does bring some context to your impersonations. Now that you mention it, it really does. All right, so let's come up from that, and let's talk about